Hyderabad, India, to the Dublin Krishna Temple for this Monday morning Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam discussion. Today we are reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 2, entitled The Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 2, Text 14. Before we discuss on this verse, let's sing Jai Radha Madhava. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari, Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari, Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari, Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Shri Radhe. Jai Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Shri Radhe. Jai Nitai Sachinandana Gaura Hari, Nitai Sachinandana Gaura Hari, Jaya Nitai Sachinandana Gaura Hari, Nitai Sachinandana Gaura Hari, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakaacharya Ashtotra Shatashri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय, मथुरा धाम की जय, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, मायापुर धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, यमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, सामवेद भक्तवृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. सर्वं श्री कृष्णार्पणमस्तु, कृष्णे मतिरस्तु, हरे कृष्ण। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 2, entitled The Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 2, Text 14. Yāvan na jāyeta parāvare smin viśveśvare draṣṭari bhakti-yogaḥ tāvat sthavīyaḥ puruṣasya rūpaṁ kriyāvasāne prayataḥ smareta. Yāvan na jāyeta parāvare smin viśveśvare draṣṭari bhakti-yogaḥ tāvat sthavīyaḥ puruṣasya rūpaṁ kriyāvasāne prayataḥ smareta. Yāvan na jāyeta parāvare smin viśveśvare draṣṭari bhakti-yogaḥ tāvat sthavīyaḥ puruṣasya rūpaṁ kriyāvasāne prayataḥ smareta. Synonyms: yavat, as long as; na, does not; jāyeta, develop; para, transcendental; avare, mundane; smin, in this form of; viśveśvare, the Lord of all worlds; draṣṭari, onto the seer; bhakti-yogaḥ, devotional service; tāvat, so long; sthavīyaḥ, the gross materialist; puruṣasya, of the Virata Purusha; rūpaṁ, universal form; kriyāvasāne, at the end of one's prescribed duties; prayataḥ, with proper attention; smareta, one should remember. Translation: unless the gross materialist develops a sense of loving service unto the Supreme Lord, the seer of both transcendental and material worlds, he should remember or meditate upon the universal form of the Lord at the end of his prescribed duties. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. The Supreme Lord is the seer of all worlds, both material and transcendental. In other words, the Supreme Lord is the ultimate beneficiary and enjoyer of all worlds, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 5.29. The spiritual world is a manifestation of his internal potency, and the material world is a manifestation of his external potency. The living entities are also his marginal potency, and by their own choice, they can live in either the transcendental or material worlds. The material world is not a fit place for living entities because they are spiritually one with the Lord, and in the material world, the living entities become conditioned by the laws of the material world. The Lord wants all living entities who are his parts and parcels to live with him in the transcendental world. And for enlightening conditioned souls in the material world, all the Vedas and the scriptures are there, expressly to recall the conditioned souls back home, back to Godhead. Unfortunately, the conditioned living entities, although suffering continually the threefold miseries of conditioned life, are not very serious about going back to Godhead. It is due to their misguided way of living, complicated by sins and virtues. Some of them who are virtuous by deeds begin to re-establish the lost relation with the Lord, but they are unable to understand the personal feature of the Lord. The real purpose of life is to make contact with the Lord and be engaged in his service. That is a natural position of living entities. But those who are impersonalists and are unable to render any loving service to the Lord have been advised to meditate upon his impersonal feature, the Virata Rupa, or universal form. Some way or other, one must try to re-establish one's forgotten relation with the Lord if one at all desires to gain real happiness in life and to reclaim his natural, unfettered condition. For the less intelligent beginners, meditation on the impersonal feature, the Virata Rupa, or universal form of the Lord, will gradually qualify one to rise to personal contact. One is advised herewith to meditate upon the Virata Rupa specified in the previous chapters in order to understand how the different planets, seas, mountains, rivers, birds, beasts, human beings, demigods, and all that we can conceive are but different parts and limbs of the Lord's Virata form. This sort of thinking is also a type of meditation on the absolute truth, and as soon as such meditation begins, one develops one's godly qualities, and the whole world appears to be happy and peaceful residence for all the people of the world. Without such meditation on God, either personal or impersonal, all good qualities of the human being become covered with misconceptions regarding his constitutional position. And without such advanced knowledge, the whole world becomes a hell for the human being. Before we discuss on this verse, let us offer some prayers. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Shreshtham Manamapi Shachiputram Matra Swarupam Rūpaṁ tasyagrajam murupurim mathurim goshthavati Radha kundam girivaram maho Radhika madhavasham Prapto yasya pratita kripaya Shri Gurum tam natosmi Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rūpaṁ Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Adadandastrinam Dante Idam Yachaha Punaha Punaha Shriman Rupa Padambhojam Dhulisyam Janma Janmani He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2, Text 14. Yāvan jāyeta parāvare smin viśveśvare draṣṭari bhakti-yogaḥ tāvat sthavīyaḥ puruṣasya rūpaṁ kriyāvasāne prayataḥ smareta. Unless the gross materialist develops a sense of loving service unto the Supreme Lord, the seer of both transcendental and material worlds, he should remember or meditate upon the universal form of the Lord at the end of his prescribed duties. This is a verse being spoken by Srila Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. And so he is mentioning that yāvan jāyeta parāvare smin. Parāvare. So this is Srila Prabhupada transliterates the synonyms as yavat, as long as na does not jāyeta, develop, para transcendental, avare mundane, asmin, in this form of. So the goal of Vedeshcha sarver ahameva vedyam, Vedanta krit Vedanta vedeva cha aham. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that of everything in Vedas, the goal of Vedas is to know ahameva vedyam, to know Krishna. So there is another verse where it says that Vede Ramayana chaiva Mahabharate Adav Madhye cha Antam cha Hari Sarvatra Giyate. So if we look at Veda, Ramayana, Mahabharata, all the Upanishads, the beginning, the middle, and the end is the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the transcendental position of all the Vedas. When one understands that the goal is to remember Krishna. Smartavya satatam Vishnu, vismartavyam na jatuchit. Sarve vidhi nishedasyor etayor eva kinkara. Srila Prabhupada actually mentions that in the near the end of the purport as well, which means that the final goal is to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna always. Smartavya satatam Vishnu, vismartavyam na jatuchit. And never forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in that regard, the universal form is, as Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, is the beginning stage, the understanding of the universal form of the Lord. We see in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna requests Krishna to show the Virata Rupa, the universal form. And Krishna provides him Divya Chakshusha, with the transcendental eyes, the divine eyes, to see the universal form of the Lord. That is the qualification, even to see the universal form of the Lord. What to speak of his personal form. The premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santas sadaiva hrideshu vilokanti. Yam shyama sundaram achintya gunaswarupam. Govinda madi puruṣam tamaham bhajami. So that is achintya. So Krishna's guna and swarupa, his qualities and his transcendental form is achintya. Achintya khalu ye bhava natam starkena yojayet. Prakritir param yattach tad achintyasya lakshanam. So that is mentioned in Mahabharata that the transcendental and divine form of the Lord, it cannot be understood. Natam starkena yojayet. Tarko pratishthat shrutayo vibhinna. Nasha vrishiriyasya matam na bhinnam. Dharmasya tattvam vihitam guhayam. Mahajano yena gatasya pantha. So this tarka. Tarka means through the logic. If one wants to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead through logic, no, apratishtat. It cannot be understood through logic. Because logic is situated in the mundane realm, which is covered by the three modes of material nature. So that is this Tribhir Gunamayir Bhaver Ebhi Sarvamidam Jagat Mohitam Nabi Janati Mamebhya Paramavyayam. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that all the living entities in the conditioned state are enveloped by the three modes of material nature. Tribhir Gunamayir Bhaver Ebhi Sarvamidam Jagat. So in the conditioned state, the whole living entities are under the influence of the three modes of material nature, and because of that they are mohitam. Mohitam is enamored. The material energy is enamoring the conditioned living entity, and because of that enamored condition, one is not able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna actually mentions Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasya ham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati. So Krishna mentions that one who sees me everywhere and everything in me, I never forget that person, and such a person never forgets me. That is the premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena. So that is the eyes anointed with love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When that happens, when that love for the Lord is present, then the Supreme Personality of Godhead is seen. He is experienced. So this is it is an experience. Pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam susukham kartum avyayam rajavidya rajaguhyam pavitram idam uttamam. So it is mentioned by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita that this understanding of the transcendental signs of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the king of all education. Etad jnanam iti proktam yadato ajnanam anyatha. Adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartha darshanam. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that what is the real knowledge? The real knowledge is adhyatma jnana nityatvam. Constantly understanding one's direct link with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and experiencing it on the practical level. So that is pratyaksha. Pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam. So it is pratyaksha. Pratyaksha means experiential. It is totally experiential level. It's not on a theoretical level. The theoretical level is the starting point. If someone wants to, even if we look at the science, the understanding of science has got theory and practicals. If you look at physics, chemistry, and all the science subjects, for example, chemistry, the person will learn that NaCl, so sodium chloride, for example, how the sodium chloride is made. So there will be a formula that will help one understand that you add this chemical and then you add the other chemical, and then when you add the two chemicals, you get a new type of chemical, which is a combination of the two. So this is the theory that one understands theoretically that this is. Then one goes to the lab, the chemical lab, and then one actually puts the two chemicals together, and then one practically sees, yes, there is a change and it has transformed into this. So there is this diksha. About the diksha also, it is mentioned that how the bell metal gets transformed. Yatha cancer. Tatha dvijatvam jāyete nrinam. So how the one metal is transformed into another metal. Similarly, when one is taking shelter of the spiritual master, the transformation takes place. So that is the tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. As it is mentioned by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, that the way of understanding transcendental knowledge is pranipata, pariprashna, and sevaya. There are three ways of surrendering onto the spiritual master. One is actually pranipata. Pranipata is surrendering. Then after surrender, one is pariprashna. One is inquiring with humility in order to actually genuinely understand the subject. And then sevaya, rendering service. So pariprashnena sevaya, then upadyakshanti te jnanam. Then the knowledge is revealed by the spiritual master. And how can the spiritual master reveal the knowledge? Because jnaninas tattva darshina. Because he himself is established in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's totally surrendered onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Brahmani upasamashrayam. So this is the qualification of tasmat gurum prapadyeta jignasu shreya uttamam shabde pare cha nishnatam brahmani upasamashrayam. So therefore it is mentioned that therefore one has to prapadyeta, gurum prapadyeta. One has to surrender onto the spiritual master. Who surrenders on the spiritual master? Jignasu shreya uttam. So one who is inquisitive, one who wants to understand the ultimate beneficial path, and one who wants to transcend the mode of material nature. Uttamam, Utkadatam. Jignasu Shreya Uttamam, Shabde Parecha Nishnatam, Brahmani Upasamashrayam. So that is the qualification of the spiritual master. The spiritual master is established in the sound vibration of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that's Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the life and soul of the person of the spiritual master who has surrendered on to the Supreme Personality of God. Shabde Parichanishnātam, Brahmani Upasamashrayam. And he has taken total shelter onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Because of that, that is the Tattvadarshi. So one has actually Pratyaksha-vagamam dharmyam. So one has experientially, practically experienced this Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam. So it is transcendental knowledge, and it is Guhyam. Guhya is secret. Idam te guhyatamam pravakshyami anasuyave jnana vijnana sahitam yad gyatva mokshase ashubhat. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, idam te guhyatamam pravakshyami anasuyave. So Krishna mentions to Arjuna that I am telling this topmost secret to you. Why am I telling this topmost secret? Because you are anasuyave, because you are non-envious. So if it is, so this is a when there is envy, then there is no understanding of the spiritual knowledge. When there is false ego and envy, then one cannot. That is a platform of ignorance, because one is thinking on the basis of bodily platform. So when one is thinking on the bodily platform, it is a combination of so Ishwaroham Aham Bhogi, Balavan Sudridham Sukhi. So that is the platform of ignorance, where one considers oneself to be the lord of everything and the enjoyer of everything. I am the strongest, so one thinks that way. I am the happiest. So when one is in that state of mind, then this understanding of transcendental knowledge cannot happen. So idam tute guhyatamam pravakshyami anasuyave jnana vijnana sahitam yad gyatva mokshase ashubhat. So it has both jnana and vijnana, as we were mentioning before. Jnana is on the theoretical basis, theoretical knowledge, and vijnana is a practical application of the knowledge, the scientific application. So this is the transcendental position. So we see here in this, if you look at the yāvan jāyeta parāvare smin viśveśvare draṣṭari bhakti-yogaḥ. So here it is mentioned that if one is not able to do bhakti yoga of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so we have to understand what is meant by bhakti yoga. Bhakti pareshanubhava viraktiranyatra syat esha trisha ekakala prapadyamanasya yadashnutasyu tushti pushti kshudapaya anugasham. So this is mentioned in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam about what is bhakti. Bhakti is para isha anubhava. It is the anubhava, experience. Again, we are saying experience. It's on a practical level, experiential level. It's the experience of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is bhakti. Bhakti para isha anubhava. And what happens when one experiences the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Viraktir anyatra syat. Automatically there is a renunciation. Vairagya vidya nija bhakti yogam shikshartham eka purusha purana. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sharira Dhari Kripam Budhiryas Tamaham Prapadye. So this is mentioned by the pure devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prakashananda Saraswati, and he says that, glorifying Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so he says that what is Vairagya Vidya? What is the transcendental knowledge of renunciation? That is Nija Bhakti Yoga. So the renunciation is nothing but the loving devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Radha Bhava Dviti Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Swarupam. Yeah. So that is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He has got Srimati Radharani's emotion, bhava, and duty the complexion, but he is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna himself. So this is Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. So renunciation is a byproduct of having loving devotional service towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shikshartha Meka Purusha Purana. So this is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching that when one is totally in the loving devotional service, absorbed in the loving devotional service of Krishna, automatically there is detachment and transcendental knowledge. So Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Ashuvairagyam Jnanam Chayat Ahaituka. As it is mentioned in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, when there is Vasudeve Bhagavati, when there is Bhakti Yoga Prayojita, loving devotional service to Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, Sri Krishna, with total love, Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. So that is the most important aspect of devotional service, love, Priti. And that is the only thing that the conditioned living entity can give to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And nothing else can be given by the living entity to the Lord, because everything is Lord's. Ishavasyamidam sarvam yat kincham jagatyam jagat. So this is, and Srila Prabhupada actually quotes the 529 Bhagavad Gita verse as well in the purport. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam yatva mam shanti mruchati. So how does one attain real peace? When one attains real peace, when one understands three things, understands and experiences. It's not just theoretical understanding, it's practical experience. So that is Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam. That Krishna is actually the real enjoyer of all the austerities and penances and the activities that are done by all the living entities. Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, that Krishna is the actual proprietor of the whole universe. And Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam, Krishna is the best friend of all the living entities. If one knows these three things, then Gyatva Mam Shanti Brachati, one attains real peace. Nasti Buddhir Ayuktasya Nacha Yuktasya Bhavana Nacha Bhavayata Shanti Ashantasya Kuta Sukham. So generally, everyone is looking for happiness. So that is the natural state, because originally we are full of bliss. Sachidananda, Krishna is Sachidananda Vigraha, truth, eternality, and bliss. And because we are eternal part and parcels of Krishna, Mama Eva Amsha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanātana, one is blissful. Original nature is fully blissful. But because there is covering of the material body, the material mind, and the modes of material nature, that bliss is not perceived. The bliss which is always accessible is not perceived. So therefore it is. So that's why we are always seeking happiness. The living entities are always seeking happiness because the bliss is already there within. But it is not being sought where it should be sought. It is being sought in the sense objects. So, Vishaya Vinivartante Niraharasya Dehira Rasavarjam Rasopyasya Param Društva Nivartate. As it is mentioned by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, that this is Asamshaya Mahabaho Manodurnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena cha Gruhyate. So this is the mind and the senses are always dragging the living entity outside, thinking that is the only experience. There is no internal experience. So unless one goes into the internal experience of knowing that everything is already there, one will always be. There is Atma Ramasya Munaya Nigranthapi Urukrame Kurvanti Ahetukim Bhaktim Itham Bhuta Guno Hari. So that is the Atma Rama. So what is Atma Rama? One who is totally finds the bliss within. One does not. So when one is Atma Rama in that state, there is no Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kamshati. upward. So this is the transcendental position of the Atmaram, one who is always enjoying within oneself. One does not need anything external to be absorbed, because what the mind is doing is mind is always looking for objects to get absorbed in, and when the mind does not find the objects to get absorbed in, it goes from one place to another. It just jumps. And that is why there is Shrotavyadini Rajendra, Nrinam Santi Sahasrasa, Apashyatam Atmatattvam Graheshu Grahmedina. So that is mentioned by Srila Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. Srila Shukadeva Goswami says that Shrotavyadini Rajendra Nrinam Santi Sahasrasa. So in the conditioned state of existence, the conditioned living entities are wanting to hear thousands of different things. Sahasrasa, Nrinam Santi, Shrotavyadini, want to hear thousands of different things. What is the reason? Because the mind is jumping from one topic to another, one topic to another, one topic to another. It is not getting absorbed. But then material absorption will not bring in the real happiness that the living entity is looking for. So if there is any material topic that someone gets absorbed in, one might be in that state of absorption and one might forget the passage of time because of the absorption in that material topic. But it is not going to give one the real happiness that one is looking after. That can only be found when one connects with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yogi yunjita sadatam atmanam rasi stita nisprah sarva kamebhyo aparigraha. So this is Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, yogi yunjita satatam atmanam rasi stita. So the yogi is constantly connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nisprah sarva kamebhyo nirashir aparigraha. So that is a transcendental position of one who is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Atmanam rahasi stita. One is totally internalized. One is in an internal state of existence. So therefore, sukham atyantikam yattat buddhi grahyam atindriyam vetti yatra chaivayam stitas chalati tatvata. So that is the Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that is that state of existence where that one gets that bliss, the original bliss that is within. One experiences it. So sukham atyantikam yattat buddhi grahyam atindriyam. So that is, what kind of sukham is it? Atyantikam. It cannot be understood by blunt material senses. That is that bliss. The real bliss in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental. What do we mean by transcendental? Transcendental means it transcends the modes of material nature. So there is a mode of goodness, there is a mode of passion, and there is a mode of ignorance. So all these are binding the living entity. Teshipa, so andhaya thandaya rupaniya mana stepisha tantra urudamni badhya nate vidu swarthagatim he vishnu durashaya ye bahirarthamanina. So this is Srila Prahlad Maharaj mentions in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. He says that unfortunately in the conditioned state, one is not knowing that the real swartha, so swartha is the one is always interested in one's self-interest. So that is swartha, self-interest. So in the conditioned state, one does not understand that the actual self-interest and the actual goal is Vishnu. Nate vidu swarthagatim Vishnu durashaya ye bahirarthamanina. Why is it? Why does one not understand that the real self-interest and the real goal is Vishnu? Because durashaya. Because one has got that understanding that the body is the only thing that exists, and satisfying the body and the senses is the only thing that I need to do. Nothing else I need to do. So that is durasha. So there is a real asha bandha samutkantha namagane sada ruchi. So that is the real hope is the hope of being absorbed in the lotus feet of the Lord. And the other durasha, the hope that is not good for the living entity is bahir arthamanina. When one considers that whatever is external is the only reality, bahir artha. Andhaya thandar upaniyamana tepisha tantra urudamni badhya. So this is so unfortunately in this material world, this because very rare people are in the state of manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhe yatatav api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tatvata. So Krishna mentions that there are billions and billions of people, but among them very few go in the direction of attaining perfection, siddhayet. Yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tatvata. Krishna says that even among the people who are actually going in the direction of perfecting oneself, very few know me as I am, tatvata. Name vidu suragana prabhavana maharshaya aham madhire devanam maharshinam cha sarvasha. So Krishna mentions that even the great demigods, they don't know me, and the great sages, prabhavana maharshaya. Why? Because aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvasha. Because Krishna is the origin of all the demigods and all the sages. Sarva karana karanam. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna. And what is his form? His form is Sachidananda. It is truth, eternality, and bliss. Vigraha. It is a form. Anadir Adir Govinda. He himself does not have any beginning, but he is the beginning of everyone. Aham sarvasya prabho matas sarvam pravartate. Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. So when one understands that everything is coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything is emanating from him, when one knows this, iti matva bhajante mam, the person then starts engaging in loving devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And such a person is Buddha. Such a person is really intelligent person. And how does such a person engage in the loving devotional service? Bhava samanvita. So that is madchitta madgat prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. That is the transcendental position of the surrendered souls of the Mahatma, the great souls who are surrendered unto the Supreme Lord. What do? Madchitta. Their mind is totally absorbed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Madgat prana. Their life air is dedicated towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bodhayanta parasparam. And they are constantly talking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his pastimes, his devotees' pastimes. So they are constantly linked directly connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kathayantascha mam nityam. What are they doing? Again, they are constantly talking Krishna Katha about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. And what is the way they are conversing with lots of tushyanti, with total satisfaction and total blissfulness. Ramanti. Ramante yogina anante satyanande chidatmani iti rama pade nashau param brahma vidiyate. So that is the transcendental position where the yogi is constantly in a state of bliss. Anante. And what is that bliss? Satyananda. It is a true happiness. Chidatmani. When one understands one's eternal nature. Iti Rama Pade Nashau Param Brahmadi Abhidhyate. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called Rama. Rama. One who gives eternal bliss. So that is Sri Ram. So here, Srila Prabhupada mentions about. When we look at the second sentence here, viśveśvare draṣṭari bhakti-yogaḥ tāvat sthavīyaḥ puruṣasya rūpaṁ kriyāvasāne prayataḥ smareta yāvan jāyete parāvare smin viśveśvare draṣṭari bhakti-yogaḥ. So this is so the first two lines: unless the gross materialist develops a sense of loving service unto the Lord, the seer of both transcendental and material worlds. So that is the draṣṭari, viśveśvare draṣṭari. So that is. So Krishna mentions athva bhavanetena kim gyatena tavarjuna vishtabhyaham nidam kritsnam ekanshena sthito jagat. So Krishna mentions that what more can I tell you? So Krishna actually mentions about how he can be known. Rasoham apsu kaunteya prabhasmi shashi suryo pranavas sarva vedeshu shabdam khai paruṣam drushu. So Krishna says that I am the taste in the water, I am the light in the sun and the moon. Prabhasmi shashi suryo pranavas sarva vedeshu. I am the Omkara mantra. Om iti ekaksharam mantram vyaharan ma manusmaran ya prayati tyajan deham sayati paramam gatim. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that one who says Om and remembers the Supreme Personality of Godhead, after giving up the body, does not come back to the material world. Paramam gatim. One reaches the supreme abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is Om. So remembering the Lord and saying Om. So this is pranavas sarva vedeshu shabdam khai paruṣam drushu. So any kind of sound in the ether that represents the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shabdam khai paruṣam drushu. Any ability that we see in any person, that represents Krishna. So this is the understanding of the universal form, the Virata Rupa. So initially, so this is what is mentioned: tāvat sthavīyaḥ puruṣasya rūpaṁ kriyāvasāne prayataḥ smareta. So kriyāvasāne. So one is doing one's prescribed duties. When it ends, avasāne means when it ends. Kriya means the activities. When the activities are end, prayataḥ smareta. With proper attention, one should remember. So this is so Srila Prabhupada actually mentions in the purport. Srila Prabhupada mentions that the real purpose of life is to make contact with the Lord and be engaged in His service. The real purpose of life is to make contact with the Lord and be engaged in His service. That is the natural position of living entities. That is the natural position of living entities. So this is the Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karaya Udai. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabo Noi. That is so all the pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not something that is external. It is there within each and every living entity. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karaya Udai. When one is hearing about the Lord with pure mind. So what is meant by pure mind? The mind is totally absorbed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one is hearing, the mind is totally absorbed in that sound vibration of the Krishna Katha. So that when Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karaya Udai, so automatically it is revealed. Just like when if it is a foggy day, one might not see the sun, but then when the sun comes, automatically all the fog gets dispelled. The brightness of the sun dispels all the fog, and the sun is very clearly there, fully bright, spreading the light and heat everywhere. So it is similar that when one is Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte, when one is hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead with pure mind, totally absorbed in the transcendental sound vibration, automatically all the fog of ignorance gets removed, because the sun of the transcendental, divine transcendental Krishna Katha, the pastimes of the Lord, automatically takes away the fog and the darkness of ignorance. So this is Krishne Sodhamo Pagate Dharma Jnana Dibhisaha Kalau Nashta Drisham Esha Puranarko Dunodita. This is said about Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam as well. That when the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna went back home, back to his original abode, Goloka Vrindavan, along with him Dharma and Jnana also went, because he is the embodiment of Dharma and Jnana, religiosity and the transcendental knowledge. Dharma jnana divisa kalau nashta drisham esha. Then immediately the age of Kali started. When Krishna went back to his Goloka Vrindavan Dham. Kalau nashta drisham esha Puran arko dhunodita. So then when this dark age of Kali started, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam rose as the sun, dissipating the darkness of ignorance. So this is the jnana. This is tesham evanukampartham mentions in Bhagavad Gita that those who are really lovingly surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, He gives them special mercy. Anukampartham. Tesha eva anukampam aham ajnanajam tamah nashyami atma bhavasto gyanadipena bhasvata. So Krishna helps that person to understand that light of the lamp of knowledge is lit, and automatically the darkness of ignorance is dissipated. Aham ajnanajam tamah nashyami atma bhava. So that is the atma bhava is atma jnana vihina mudha te pacyanti narakani gudha. So this is mentioned by Srila Shankaracharya in Bhaja Govinda. He says that one who is devoid of the knowledge of self, our real eternal position, which is directly connected with the Supreme Lord at every moment, when one is not, when one atma jnana vihina, when one does not have that self knowledge, the knowledge of our original self, te pacyanti narakani gudha. So Srila Shankaracharya mentions that unfortunately in that conditioned state one is in a hellish state of existence. So this is yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarvair gunair tatra samasate sura harava abhaktasya kuto mahatgunat manorathena asato dhavato bhahi. So this is Srila Prabhupada mentions the sort of thinking is also a type of meditation on the absolute truth, and as soon as one such meditation begins, one develops one's godly qualities, and the whole world appears to be a happy and peaceful residence for all the people of the world. This is yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana. So when one has got that loving devotional service for Krishna, akinchana, without any trace of the jnana karmadi anavritam. So there is no trace of impersonalism and there is no trace of karma. Sarvair gunair tatra samasate sura. So in such a person, all the good qualities are automatically seen. Titikshava karunika suhridam sarvadehinam ajata shatrava shanta sadhavo sadhubhushanam. So what are those qualities? The qualities are forbearance, titikshava, karunika, being compassionate. Titikshava karunika suhridam sarvadehinam, the best friend of all the living entities. Ajata shatrava, for whom an enemy is never born. So such a person does not have any enemy. Why the person does not have any enemy? Because they fully understand that every living entity is unfortunately being moved by the modes of material nature. Prakriti kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasha. Yah pashyati tathatmanam akartaram sa pashyati. As Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, that all the activities are actually being done by the modes of material nature, and our real self is akartara, is not doing any activities. What is real self doing? It is only absorbed in the remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the only activity of the real self. Total absorption in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when we engage in Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnum, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Mandanam, Dasyam, Satyam, Atma Nivedanam. So as Srila Prahlad Maharaj mentions, the 9 kinds of devotional service, starting with hearing about the Lord, Shravanam, then Kirtanam, talking about the Lord, singing the glories of the Lord, Vishnu, about whom? Vishnu, Krishna, Smaranam, remembering the lotus feet of the Lord, remembering the transcendental form of the Lord, transcendental pastimes of the Lord, the transcendental associates of the Lord and their pastimes. Smaranam, Padasevanam, rendering service at the lotus feet of the Lord, archanam, giving flowers to the Lord, vandanam, saying the prayers to the Lord, dasyam, becoming the servant of the Lord, sakhyam, becoming the friend of the Lord, and atmanivedanam, total surrender onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when one is engaged in that Navavidha Bhakti, the 9 kinds of devotional service, what is one doing is, one is mirroring one's external existence. The cleansing is taking place. Cheto-darpana marjanam. Shrinvatam swakatha Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridayanta sohi abhadrani vidhunoti. It gets cleansed. Suhrit satam. Satam prasangat mama virya samvidho. Bhavanti hritkarna rasayana katha. Tad joshanad ashu apavarga vartmani shraddharatir bhaktir anupramishyati. So this is, so when one is talking and hearing about the Lord in the association of the devotees of the Lord, Satam Prasangat, Mama Virya Samvido, the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, Bhavanti Hritkarna Rasayana Katha. So when one is hearing in that absorbed state, in the association of the other absorbed devotees, that activity becomes Hritkarna Rasayana Katha. For the heart and for the ear, it becomes totally blissful absorption in that activity. Tad joshanadashu apavarga vartmani. Then in that state, immediately one comes out of this conditioned state of existence, apavarga vartmani. So there is pavarga and apavarga. Pavarga is the existence in the conditioned state of existence in the material world. Parishram, Phena, Papha, Babhama. So in the Hindi Varnamala, the alphabets. So there is Parishram, Pa is Parishram, Pa is Phena, Ba is Vyarthata, Bha is Bhaya, and Ma is Mrityu. So one is doing a lot of material activities, which is causing a lot of anguish and a lot of pain, which is Vyarthata. It is going in vain, everything is going in vain. Then Bhaya, one is always afraid. And what is the greatest fear? Mrityu, death. So one is no one in the conditioned state of existence. No one can say that I am not afraid of death. But when one is in this liberated state, when one has experienced fully one's connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead as an eternal part and parcel of the Lord, then there is no. So that is abhaya. Abhayam sarvada tasmai dadami etat vratam mama. So Krishna, Sri Rama mentions to Vibhishana in the Yuddha Kanda of Ramayana, Sakrideva prapannoya stavasmiti cha yāchate abhayam sarvada tasmai dadami etat vratam mama. So if even once, with full absorption, one says that, oh Lord, I am yours, with total absorption, even once, Sakrideva prapannoya stavasmiti cha, I'm yours, O Lord. One says that, abhayam sarvada tasmai. So Sri Ram says that to such a person, I grant fearlessness for eternity. This is the wonderful state of this. That's why Krishna is called Karuna Sindhu, ocean of mercy. Because the living entity is unfortunately always Bahirmukha, Anadir Bahirmukha. Krishna bhuli gela, atev Krishna Ved Puran Karila. So it is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Anadi Bahirmukha Jeev, Krishna bhuli gela. So this is the unfortunate state in the conditioned state of existence that one is always not facing the Lord, facing away from the Lord. And therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through His costless mercy, provides this Vedas, Upanishads, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. All these transcendental scriptures are provided so that one can get absorbed in these scriptures. And when one gets absorbed in the scriptures, one cleanses all the impurities, and then immediately one knows that I am part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, eternal. Na jāyete mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuya. Ajo nityam shashvatoyam purano. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. One knows that when the body gets destroyed by different ways, naturally or otherwise, the real person still exists, and the real person is always in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is the we see here yāvan jāyete parāvare smin viśveśvare draṣṭari bhakti-yogaḥ tāvat sthavīyaḥ puruṣasya rūpaṁ kriyāvasāne prayataḥ smareta. So the most important part here is prayataḥ smareta. With proper attention, one should remember. So that is, the attention is very important here. Somehow or other, if the attention can be fixed, येन तेन प्रकारेण मन कृष्णे निवेशेत सर्वे विधि निषेधस्य एतयोरेव किंकरः. So somewhere or other, if the mind is fixed at the lotus feet of the Lord, then one automatically comes out of the modes of material nature, and one gets established in one's original constitutional position as an eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jivera swarupaya krishnera nitya das krishnasya tatastha shakti bheda bheda prakash. So that is what Srila Prabhupada also mentions in the purport here about the internal energy of the internal potency of the Lord, which is the divine potency, where one knows one's original nature. Then the external potency of the Lord, which is external potency, is where one identifies oneself with the external world, and one identifies oneself as a body. And then the tatastha shakti, the tatastha is the energy that is in between the internal and external energy, the marginal potency. There, what sometimes is one sometimes understands one's original constitutional position, but sometimes one is thinks that one is the external body. So that is the position of the living entities. So therefore, the living entities have this, especially in the human form of life, have this amazing this potential is provided, and all the circumstances and everything has been provided, favorable circumstances, so that one can understand one's original nature and go back home, back to Godhead. So with that, I would like to close this talk. I'll just have a look at the comments here. Sumit Parke is saying Hare Krishna, Miss Literate Jai Shri Krishna, Lakshman Desai Jai Shri Krishna, and Mohammed Hassan Hare Krishna. I don't see any comments or questions here, so thank you very much for your time. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Sarvam Shri Krishnarpanamastu Krishne Matirastu Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.